All right, welcome to the show, y'all. Happy New Year's Eve to those of you watching on New Year's Eve. Happy New Year's Day to those of you watching on New Year's Day, the big 2026. But we're going out with a bang, y'all. We are going out with a bang. So in just a second, we got some new bombshell information that came out. Trump's hidden Epstein secrets are continuing to come to light. And every day it gets worse and worse and worse. So we'll talk about that. We also have friend of the show, Emma Vigeland, went on CNN and smacked up a bunch of idiots. That was glorious to watch. What's that guy's name? Something Jennings. He is the smuggest motherfucker on planet Earth, and I despise him with a burning passion. And it was fun watching him try to do some fake outrage on Emma and her swatted aside casually. So we'll talk about that. We also have more on Alex Jones snapping and declaring all-out war on Candace. We have the grassroots are speaking, and they are not at all. With Alex Jones, the right-wing conspiracy-minded people are now way past Alex. He's the past. He's washed. It's Overington for that guy. Ozempic Jones is, way past his heyday. So we'll talk about that. Then we'll also get to Trump casually agreeing on camera with Netanyahu to continued war with Iran. That's absolutely devastating and disgusting. And later on, Tony Hinchcliffe's Trump glazing is completely and utterly out of control, and I got a video on that one for you. So, guys, we got all that and more. Everybody knows the drill. Do me a big favor. Please subscribe to the channel and click that bell icon. That helps out a lot and costs you nothing at all. It also makes it so you don't have to rely on the YouTube algorithm, which famously doesn't love political content. But if you hit that bell icon, you'll get a notification every time we drop a video. So that'd be deeply appreciated if you do that. You could also support the show on Patreon. That link is below if you'd like to help out. Remember, man, this is real independent media. I know I say it every day, but I say it because it has to be said. There's very few outlets that actually do what we do, which is zero ad reads, zero talking to advertisers, no billionaires involved, no governments involved, no PACs involved, no nothing, man. We've kept this as pure as the driven snow in this bitch. So hook a brother up with $2 a month on Patreon, or you could tip with that thanks button on YouTube. And again, that goes a very long way. And thank you to everybody who does that. We cannot do this show without you. And of course, subscribe to Crystal Kyle and Friends because we got a bunch of awesome interviews coming up. Check out the free Christmas present interview that we did with Ro Khanna last week. Definitely check that out. It was a great, great interview. You don't want to miss that. And of course, go subscribe to Corin's World. We didn't have a Kyle and Corin this Monday because I was in North Carolina with Crystal. But this Thursday, we are going to have a Kyle and Corin. So you're going to get an episode this Thursday of Kyle and Corin, and you're also going to get one, next Monday. So we're not even skipping an episode. We just postponed it a little bit. But anyway, there's that, y'all. Let's go ahead and jump right in because we got a lot of stuff to get to. So I got to start with this, man. And this is such a great example of, bro, Trump is so high on his own supply. He's so out over his skis. He's lost touch so thoroughly that he's making decisions which are like comical. He's making decisions that even he can't weather the storm for the backlash of what's coming, okay? So take a look at this. President Donald J. Trump vetoed H.R. 131, Finish the Arkansas Valley Conduit Act, and H.R. 504, the Miccosukee Reserved Area Amendments Act. He transmitted the attached message to Congress. Okay, ready for this? So as Midas Touch points out, Trump used his first veto to block a bill that would bring clean drinking water to Colorado, a bill sponsored by Lauren Boebert and passed unanimously by both the House and the Senate. Guys, that never happens. Apparently out of retaliation for Boebert supporting the release of the Epstein files and Colorado refusing to free a convicted felon currently in state prison for election tampering. Do you understand how insane this is? So the President of the United States is throwing an absolute toddler-like tantrum. And he's saying, no more clean drinking water for you. No more clean drinking water, even though it's passed unanimously in the House and the Senate, because I'm mad that Lauren Boebert, who sponsored this bill, voted to release the Epstein files. So I'm getting back at her for that. That's what this is. And of course, as they say, also, Trump is mad because Colorado is refusing to free somebody who is a MAGA election fraudster, who was trying to do Trump's dirty work and steal the election for Trump in 2020. That's what this is. So the fact that, literally Every single person in Colorado needs to be aware of this, and they need to understand Trump just stabbed you in the back. Trump wants you to get fucking cholera and Legionnaire's disease. Trump wants you to have poisoned water because his billionaire buddies were exposed in the Epstein files and Lauren Boebert supported the release of said Epstein files. I mean, this is like, excuse me? Like, this is one of those things where I can't imagine, even Trump in his first term, he was there enough cognitively to understand there are some limits to what he can get away with, right? But now he's surrounded by total sycophants and yes men, and so nobody gives him a reality check. And so here he is going, oh, I don't give a shit. I'll block clean water for the state of Colorado to get back at Lauren Boebert because I'm a petty, vindictive little bitch boy. It is incredible. This is incredible. This is the kind of man that we're talking about here. Making it so fellow Americans are subject to poisoned water because he has a political axe to grind because him and his billionaire buddies were exposed by Lauren Boebert. This is insane. This is insane. I got more for you, though. So the Wall Street Journal, big article comes out yesterday. Mar-a-Lago sent an 18-year-old spa worker on a house call to Jeffrey Epstein in 2003. She complained to her bosses that Epstein pressured her for sex. So the title of the Wall Street Journal piece, the incident that prompted Trump to ban Epstein from Mar-a-Lago Spa. Mar-a-Lago sent an 18-year-old spa worker on a house call to Jeffrey Epstein in 2003. She complained to her bosses that Epstein pressured her for sex. Now, it actually goes deeper than this. The rot goes deeper than this. Because apparently, it was a regular thing for years that Trump would greenlight sending these young girls to Jeffrey Epstein's house for massages. It went on for years. It went on for years. They knew what was going on. They were fine with what was going on. But why did it get to the point where it eventually became a thing? Because one of the girls complained through official HR channels at Mar-a-Lago, and Trump and Epstein were having a real estate dispute. So Trump was basically like a pimp for the pimp. He was a pimp for the pimp. He was like, go ahead, have your pick of the litter. Choose whatever young girl you want from the Mar-a-Lago spa. We'll send them over to you. It even got to the point where the staffers at Mar-a-Lago would all whisper to each other and say, do not go to Jeffrey's house. If they say you got to go, say I'm not going, say, I'm busy that night or whatever, do not go to Jeffrey's house. It even got to the point where Marla Maples, one of Trump's ex-wives, she was going to the staffers and warning them and saying, do not go to Jeffrey's house. He's going to do horrible things to you. Do not go there. And this coincides with the New York Times story, which showed how when they had a teenage modeling event at Mar-a-Lago, Marla went up to the mother of a 14-year-old girl and whispered to her, keep your daughter away from my husband and keep all of these girls away from all of these men. They literally had on these, believe it was red and white bracelets, which denoted that, they're the meat of this event. Right? In the same way that these assholes would go shop for a new Lamborghini for their midlife crisis, they also would shop around for which piece of meat, which 14-year-old girl or 16-year-old girl they wanted to take advantage of. So this is grotesque, bro. This is grotesque. So Mar-a-Lago was basically serving as a recruiting ground for Epstein's human trafficking agency. That's what it was. It was a recruiting ground, which then it also makes sense that we learned that Mar-a-Lago was subpoenaed in the Ghislaine Maxwell investigation. Because Ghislaine, this was before Trump went easy on her, she was probably spilling the tea and saying, look, Mar-a-Lago was a key part of our recruitment. And more on this in a minute, too, because, again, the rot goes deeper than you realize. All right, so let me give you some more here. So the other day, we talked about how there's this thing called an FBI intake form. And that's where you get all of these allegations that come in about various things that people want the FBI to investigate. Now, to be fair, a lot of this stuff on the intake forms, it's sort of like obviously the lowest level of evidence you can have for these claims. Anybody can make any sort of claim on an FBI intake form, and then they'd have to go further and look into it to see if it's true, okay? Now, having said that, there's been a bunch of incredibly insane stories that we've gotten on these FBI intake forms, which it turns out there actually is some evidence to back up the claims, right? There was one claim about Trump graping a young girl, and then that young girl lived in Oklahoma. She ended up committing fluicide. Well, turns out people went back and checked the newspaper record, and they found out there's somebody in the year 2000, around that age, who did commit fluicide. So that was one piece of it. I was like, holy cow. The other thing, of course, people are talking about, as I'm sure you guys have seen, is Trump allegedly raped a different, underage girl, and then she was pregnant, and they allegedly took the newborn out onto Lake Michigan and got rid of the newborn, killed the newborn by throwing them into Lake Michigan. Again, this is what was on the intake form. Well, come to find out, Trump actually did have this riverboat yacht, casino riverboat type thing in Michigan. Illegally was not allowed to leave the port in Lake Michigan, but Clinton changed the rule to allow it to go out in Lake Michigan. And so you do have that portion of the story theoretically lines up, that he had a boat, he was out in Lake Michigan. And by the way, Epstein had a co-captain's hat, a first mate hat, that said the Trump Princess on it. That was the name of the riverboat in Lake Michigan, the Trump Princess. So again, look, let me be clear. All this stuff needs to be further investigated to get more information, to get more detail, to feel really rock solid in proclaiming this stuff as if it's factual. But having said that, there's enough smoke there where it merits further investigation. Nobody can deny that based on the evidence that's coming out. Now, another one of these stories that we got on an FBI intake form is there was a limo driver in Dallas who drove Trump, I want to say it was in 1995. And Trump was on the phone in the backseat of the limo, basically bragging to a guy named Jeff about how he took advantage and I abused this young girl. He used that language to the point where, according to the FBI intake form, this taxi driver was like, I literally wanted to pull over and beat his ass to a pulp. I was that disgusted by what they were saying. So that's what's on the FBI intake form. Well, this guy, Boston Smalls on Twitter, he decided, let me look for further evidence of this. Come to find out, there's a guy here who's a stepdad of one of the victims too, by the way, and was the limo driver, right? There's this guy, and a year before, a year earlier, he had posted this YouTube video to Donald J. Trump. And so this is the FBI intake form that talks about some of the stuff we just mentioned. And then here is the video to Donald J. Trump. Again, this was a year before. This was a year before that this FBI intake form came out. And listen to how this guy talks. Here we go.
This is to Donald John Trump, who was the 45th president of the United States of America. Donald, I know for a fact that you know exactly who I am. Don't even try to play like you don't. You stalked me in May, I'm almost certain it was May, of 1995. And you know you did. You called around the different services that were in the Dallas area and tell you that you found the one that I was a chauffeur for. Then you requested me specifically to come pick you up so that you could intimidate me. You even threatened me with your ignorant gold-plated semi-automatic, whatever it was. You did all that because you had raped a little girl around Christmas time of 94, 5 months earlier, who was 14 years old. Now, when that little girl was 7 years old, her and her two sisters became my daughters by choice. I love all three of those girls more than life itself. And you stalked me in Dallas, I guess because either she or her mother had threatened you with me. I, haven't been able to get a straight story out of anybody about it. And you bragged while you were on your cell phone to somebody named Jeffrey, about having raped my daughter by choice. When I pulled that car over on the side of Highway 114, I had unlocked my briefcase and opened the top of it, where my pistol laid. It was loaded with some rounds that would have taken your head completely off of your body. And I came within 2 seconds of grabbing that gun and ending you right there. The only reason that didn't happen was because the spirit of our creators came over me. Said, you can't put your wife through this, was the thought. So I dropped that car back in drive.
How much stuff do we just not know about when it comes to Trump, right? How dirty and dark and disgusting is his past? That's the question. The fact that you were best friends with Jeffrey Epstein, according to Jeffrey Epstein, he's on literal audio tape saying that to Michael Wolff, so nobody can deny this. I think it says a lot that your bestie was the CEO of Elite Fredo Sex Crimes Incorporated. I think that says a lot. And so look, more stuff is coming out. Again, all of this needs to be investigated thoroughly. All of it. Every claim on those FBI intake forms needs to be investigated thoroughly. And by the way, as we're watching this, keep in mind, didn't Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, weren't they out there saying, oh, it's okay, there aren't even any Epstein files. There's no Epstein files. It turns out it was all a hoax. The Epstein files are on my desk and we're about to release them. But also, plot twist, there aren't any Epstein files. Well, then what the hell do you call all of this? God, they are so dishonest. So what we're dealing with is a Republican Party that released about 1% of the Epstein files and illegally redacted a bunch of that 1%. Well, they are mandated by law to release all of the Epstein files and to only redact the victim's information. That's it. So they're flagrantly in violation of the law. Pam Bondi needs to be impeached over this. Kash Patel should be gonzo. This is the fact that they are being this disrespectful to the American people. It is insulting to our intelligence. It's insulting to our intelligence. And by the way, we knew they were going to be up to their tricks. We know that the DOJ deputy chief said on a hidden camera that they're redacting Trump and Republicans in the Epstein files. We know that Epstein's brother said they're sanitizing the files, his words, not mine, in Winchester, Virginia, and he also thinks Trump killed his brother, Jeffrey. We could rehash all the stuff that we just learned in the Epstein files, but we'd be here literally all day. But I have another one for you because this just came out, and this is absolutely fascinating. So here you have a guy who knew Trump, who was a judge at these Miss USA pageants. He was a judge for them. And listen to what he says here, because this is absolutely bone-chilling.
When it comes to Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, the media is missing the smoking gun. Now, I've sat on this information for years, and I really didn't want to get into this because this is not in my job description, and it's very dangerous to come out with this publicly. The smoking gun is Miss USA and Miss Teen USA, the pageants which Donald Trump owned for years. Now, how do I know? Because I was one of the judges in these pageants. I trained dozens and dozens of the winners and the runners-up in public speaking to promote their platform. This is all I'm going to say about this. If you're in the media and you're looking for information, start with Billy Bush. Billy Bush hosted the Miss USA, Miss Teen USA multiple times. Nancy O'Dell is another one. And then go down the rabbit hole from there. There are people that know a lot more than those two, but start there. They're celebrities, and start there, go down the rabbit hole. And I think what you're going to find is going to be very, very upsetting. Don't call me. I'm not going to comment. I'm not going on TV and talking about this. This is very dangerous to sit on. If you decide to pursue this in the media, be very, very careful. These people are dangerous.
What you guys need to do is you need to look into Jean-Luc Brunel and John Casablancas. I'll repeat their names for you. Jean-Luc Brunel and John Casablancas. These are notorious fredophiles. One of them ended up, Jean-Luc Brunel, I believe, ended up dead in a jail cell in 2022. Very similar ending to Jeffrey Epstein. These are people who were involved in the teen modeling business, right? But guess what the teen modeling business actually is? It's a front for human trafficking. That's what it. Could you imagine what normal person says, oh, I got an idea for a career path. I'm going to get into the teen modeling business. Imagine I went to Crystal and I said, I'm going to put the YouTube channel on hold. I'm going to put news and politics on hold because I want to start this venture. It's a teenage modeling business. Yeah, I'm going to go around to fucking high schools and start recruiting girls who are 14 years old, 15 years old. Oh, you look beautiful. You should be a model. Here, you want to model this underwear for me? You want to model this bathing suit for me? You want to get all, done up nicely and then trot around in front of me? Like, it's literally like hiding in plain sight is what it is. What a disgusting, dirty business. And so when he says, look, the smoking gun is Miss USA and Miss Teen USA, what that means is exactly what you think it means. This shit was a front for human trafficking. It's not like we don't have Trump on video, on camera, saying incredible damning things, right? Look at when he was on Howard Stern. He openly talked about, I'd go into the locker room in the back. I'd go into the changing room, and you'd have all these beautiful girls changing. And talking about Miss Teen USA. Got all these beautiful girls changing, and I get to go in there, and I get to say, is everybody okay? Is everybody okay in here? And you're allowed to do that when you own the place. He's literally bragging about spying on naked teenage girls. And everybody just acted like this shit is normal and this shit is acceptable and this shit is not like a classic example of a disgusting fredophile predator right in front of our eyes. And so look, this is why, we were onto this before a lot of people, but I told you guys that, the real thing going on here is basically a human trafficking business. And the fact that Epstein, we now know because of the 1% of the Epstein files that came out, there were 10 co-conspirators. It begs the question, is Donald Trump one of those co-conspirators? Is he one of those co-conspirators? Was he directly involved in the child flex trafficking industry? Because that's a fair question. That's a fair question. So, any journalists out there, take this guy's advice. Go talk to Billy Bush. Go look into the Miss USA and Miss Teen USA stuff. Because there is stuff that's going to come to light, I'm sure, that all of us cannot wrap our minds around. That's how depraved these people are. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.